7 o'clock, and the lobby of Ashford Tower had gone quiet. Sam Turner knelt by the security desk, coiling a length of cable, the overhead lights humming low above him. The elevator chimed. Emma Cross stepped out in a black dress she never wore to the office, heels loud on the marble. Sam looked up, grinned before he could stop himself. "Who's the lucky man tonight?" Emma stopped walking. Turned. Her voice came out steadier than she expected. "Was hoping that would be you." Neither of them moved. The security guard at the desk suddenly found his monitor very interesting. "What would you have said back if you were standing in that lobby right now? Keep that answer in mind. It matters more than you think by the end of this." More than a year earlier, Cross Capital had signed the lease for the top 3 floors of Ashford Tower, and Emma had walked into the building for the first time carrying 2 boxes of files because she didn't trust the movers with the important ones. The lobby had smelled of fresh paint and floor polish that day. Everything still too new to have a rhythm yet. A man in a gray work shirt had been crouched by the freight elevator, and when the doors started to close on her, he'd caught them with one arm, without even looking up from the panel he was adjusting. "Thanks," she'd said, a little breathless. "Elevator sticks a little on 11, he'd told her. "Nothing to worry about. I'm working on it." That had been the whole conversation. It became, over the following months, a pattern neither of them named out loud. Sam was always the first person in the building, and the last one to leave it. He knew which light fixtures buzzed before anyone complained, which thermostat ran cold on the 9th floor, which stairwell door needed oil on its hinge before it started to squeal. He wasn't hard to find. He also wasn't easy to overlook. Not once you'd noticed him steady in a way most people in that building, chasing quarterly numbers and client calls between elevator rides, simply were not. His daughter, Lucy, 8 years old with a gap in her front teeth and a backpack covered in enamel pins, did her homework most afternoons at the little table near the security desk, waiting for her father's shift to wind down. The receptionists knew her order at the coffee cart down the block. She knew everyone's first name by the second week, including the mail carriers, including the man who ran the newsstand on the corner. Emma noticed the girl before she noticed anything else about Sam. Then, slowly, without deciding to, she noticed that she'd started timing her mornings around the small chance of running into him in the lobby, leaving her apartment 4 minutes earlier than she needed to, taking the stairs down from the parking level instead of the elevator, so she'd pass by wherever he happened to be working. She never let herself think too hard about why. It was easier to call it politeness, the kind any decent person owed the man who kept her building running. It had stopped being only that a long time before she was ready to admit it, even to herself, alone in her office at the end of a long day. There had been small things along the way, none of them worth mentioning to anyone, all of them adding up quietly in the back of her mind. The winter morning, her heel caught on a loose floor grate near the revolving door, and Sam had it screwed down flush before lunch, without her ever having said a word to him about it. The afternoon, Lucy lost a library book somewhere in the lobby, and Emma spent 20 minutes on her hands and knees behind the potted ficus, helping look for it, more invested in the search than any of her actual meetings that day. The way Sam remembered, without being told twice, that she took her coffee black except on Fridays, when she let herself have cream, none of it meant anything on its own. All of it together had started to mean quite a lot. She'd mentioned him once, carefully, to her assistant, framing it as nothing more than an observation about how well the building was maintained lately. Her assistant had given her a look that suggested she wasn't fooling anyone, and Emma had changed the subject fast enough to end the conversation for good. Charlotte moved around the tower the way it moved around every downtown block that time of year. Buses idling at the corner, construction cranes, visible over the skyline 2 streets north, where a new arena was going up. Ashford Tower had stood, since before most of the newer glass buildings around it, 31 stories of pale limestone that had aged into something people in the neighborhood pointed out to visitors without quite knowing why it mattered to them. Sam had grown to know every inch of it the way some men know a farm they inherited, not out of ambition, just out of years spent walking the same halls before anyone else arrived. Carol Downing, who ran operations and facilities for Ashford Property Group, managed the buildings day to day, the way a good stage manager runs a show quietly and mostly unnoticed until something broke. She handled Sam's contract along with everyone else's on the maintenance roster, and until the annual renewal paperwork came due that spring, she'd never had a reason to look closely at his file. He did excellent work. That had always been enough. The renewal form was standard. Certifications, work history, 3 professional references. Sam filled it out the way he filled out everything, without fuss, and left it in Carol's mailbox on his way out one evening, the light already down to a single lamp in her office. Carol read it over coffee the next morning, mostly out of habit, scanning for gaps in dates the way she always did. Then she stopped scanning and started reading. Structural Safety Certification Engineer, Denton Construction. 5 years listed on the line, ending abruptly 4 years before Sam had ever started at Ashford. She read it twice, then set the page down flat on her desk like it might slide away from her. Denton Construction was the firm that had built Ashford Tower. She knew that because it was stamped on a brass plaque bolted to the wall of the parking garage, the kind of plaque nobody bothered to read after their first week working in the building. She looked up the name on her computer out of pure reflex, the way you check a fact you already half believe, and found nothing dramatic, only a line in an old company newsletter archive announcing that the Structural Compliance Division had been restructured for efficiency that same year. Carol didn't say anything to him. She told herself it wasn't her business that plenty of people changed careers for reasons that belonged only to them, that a man raising a daughter alone didn't owe anyone in this building an explanation for choosing quieter work. She put the file back in the cabinet, closed the drawer, and went on with her morning like nothing had shifted. But something had, and she knew it, the way you know a floor has tilted even before you see the water run downhill. 2 floors up, Walter Griggs, chairman of the board at Ashford Property Group, was going over the annual calendar with his assistant when he saw a date circled in red ink. Structural recertification, mandatory, statewide, once every 5 years for commercial towers past a certain height. Ashford's window opened in 11 weeks. "Get me the maintenance contracts," he said, and something flat in his voice made his assistant glance up before writing the request down. Carol brought him the file that afternoon, the same one she'd just closed on Sam not 2 days before. Walter flipped through it without expression, and then his jaw tightened at a name he clearly hadn't expected to see again in his lifetime, let alone in his own building. He didn't say why. He told Carol to start quietly sourcing other vendors ahead of the recertification. No formal explanation needed beyond due diligence.